It's Wednesday, the 20th of April, 2016. I am Robin Yellow, and this is Techtasm episode 11, McSamsung Sandwich. Do you know, every time I do that, every week, I'm cocking up the title, James. With me is James Woodall. How you doing, James? You've been a bit ill this week.
Yeah, I've been under the weather, but I'm very pleased to be here with our audience member.
With the listener, yeah. Well, nobody cares, so stop bleating. Should we get on with the show? This week we're going to be looking at Samsung, Google, and the Amazon Kindle. We've got 6 stories to get through, actually, so we're going to have to move at some speed. We're going to try to judge as many of those 6 this week to determine whether they are Techtasms, by which our definition is a blend of tech for technology and tasm for phantasm, something that exists only in a person's mind. So without further intro, once again, dear listener, let's get on with the show. Mashable UK reported this week that McDonald's is installing Samsung tablets in all their UK outlets. Now, they're planning to install these tablets in it says the majority, actually, in the body of the article by Lisa Heron, the majority of its UK restaurants, and customers will be able to play games, browse social media, use the web. And McDonald's apparently is rolling this out after a trial at over 250 restaurants, and the fact that it proved to be a hit with the customer. Now, you can't see the picture, but these tablets are sort of mounted in a kind of plastic holder, and they're kind of attached to the center of a sort of this bench arrangement where you obviously sit down and enjoy your burger fries and get blasted with more McDonald's advertising and materials. Good idea, James?
I'm not sure. I worry about the cleanliness of such a thing. You know, maybe that's just me, but the idea of touching a screen that every man and their dog have also kind of touched, I think, sends shivers.
Well, Doug Baker, the head of IT Restaurant Solutions and Services at McDonald's UK, said that, and this is a great sentence, technology has an important role to play in all walks of life, including our customers' eating out experience. So the changes we're making as part of the Experience of the Future program bring us closer to the way people live their lives today. Okay. Does that sound like a techtasm to you?
A little bit. I mean, the fact they're rolling it out to all stores means they must be pretty damn happy with the results, I have to say. It's the concept is really interesting. I think just because of my OCD, I worry about the cleanliness of the screen. But
well, do you know, I get that. Do you know, it's interesting that I've heard from people that they won't hold the handrail in office environments because they're worried that the handrail is covered in germs.
I'm the same. It sounds really strange. I perfected putting in my chip and pin number using my knuckle rather than my finger. Just so I'm serious, yeah. Just so I don't have to touch the button. Because
I'll tell you something that freaks me out is getting the build-up of static electricity.
Oh, okay.
So if you were walking on carpet tiles and you build up static electricity, I always like to discharge that into the first bit of metalware that I come across.
Okay, it's very interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but that will now plague my mind. So
you'll now be doing that.
I will.
Yeah.
Going back to the tech, I definitely feel that it's a really interesting idea, and I love the idea of all things tech getting into every possible part of our lives. And as I am a McDonald's connoisseur, as I certainly know that you are as well, I think this is all going to be incredibly exciting. But it feels a little tech-tasm-y to me.
Well, it's clearly a real because they are actually doing it. The question is, I mean, I hate the idea of having more branding and advertising forced down your throat when you're eating the burger at McDonald's. But obviously they wouldn't roll it out to nearly all of their UK branches unless the trial had been a success.
Yeah.
So while I don't like it, I would call it a real.
It's a real because it's obviously happening. I definitely would have called it a techtasm during the trial phase, though.
Well, the question is it going to stick? Yeah, it's a good point, because you might have called it techtasm then. Now they're doing it. How long? You know, if we come in a couple of years' time, we'll see whether they're still there, because tablets, I tell you, can look out of date really quickly.
Definitely. Well, let's come back to this one in a few years' time.
Yes, if we're still going. Tony Connolly in The Drum this week reported about a new report which paints a troubling picture for advertisers with ad blocking. And this apparently is only going to get worse. So by the end of next year, 2017, more than a quarter of internet users in the UK will be using ad blocking software, according to forecasts by eMarketer. Now, 27%, that's about 14.5 million people of UK users, currently use AdBlock, and apparently 90% of them do it on the desktop, and 28% of them use the software on mobile. Now, if you add 90 to 28, you get more than 100, but you get the drift. Yeah. And apparently this use of ad blocking, especially on mobile, is on the rise. Not a good place to be for advertisers, James.
No, absolutely not. And I'm not a user of AdBlock by choice because, actually for two reasons. Number one, it does mess up some websites. Okay, a few websites just don't display properly. But number two, I genuinely feel bad for those websites because at the end of the day, they're running a business. And I think maybe what made me change my mind was I went to the Guardian website with an ad blocker installed, and I got a message saying, "We noticed that you're running an ad blocker. Would you like to be a member of the Guardian's not club, but
yes, become a friend or
that's
contributor."
And I felt bad for them because at the end of the day, I appreciate they're a big company, etc., but the website is there because they get paid to do so, and who am I to deny them of that revenue?
Well, other podcasts use a system called Patreon, whereby you can contribute a regular amount, be it £1 or £5 or whatever it is per month, to kind of fund the podcast that you enjoy listening to. Now, obviously, we're too small and insignificant to get into Patreon. You have to do, obviously, a bit of campaigning.
Although if our listener wants to donate some money, we wouldn't say no.
Well, the interesting thing about Patreon is that you have campaigns and goals. Mm-hmm. So you actually set a goal. So you might say, when we get £100 or we meet goal 1, we will improve the quality of the audio. Now, I've got a mid-range microphone. You've got a low-range microphone. We could improve the quality of the audio that's coming through by using money in that way. Now, the fact that we choose not to do that is because this is a hobby. Rather than business, but I do feel a little bit for broadcasters and entertainers that do need to fund what they're doing.
100%. So I think it is a troubling picture for advertisers, and I feel sorry for advertisers because most websites, most content today is ad supported, just as with TV, and you can't turn off TV adverts, so it seems a bit...
You can skip through them, though, can't you?
If you pre-record the show, absolutely. But
so ad blockers, are they a Techtasm, or are they here to stay?
They're here to stay, and it's a shame. They're here to stay. It's surreal, but yeah.
The Economist this week reported that the good old European Commission is going after Google again. Now, James, cast your mind back to 2001 when you were 7. Mm-hmm. Back into the annals of time when the European Commission sent a sternly worded letter to Microsoft accusing the software maker of having illegally extended its dominance in the operating system market by promoting its own Internet Explorer browser. And that tied people into programs that played music and videos from them, and eventually Microsoft had to unbundle this monopoly in Windows from other browsers, and which made them release a special version of the OS which allowed you to choose the browser that you wanted to install at the beginning of the process. Mm. Now, apparently, they're doing the same to Google. And on April the 20th, the Commission presented Google with a statement of objections, again accusing them of tying its Google suite of applications to the popular Android operating system, which apparently powers 80% of all new smartphones. And this could possibly lead to Google having to unbundle its Google Play Store and its Google Apps from the initial deployment. And before I get to you, James, because I'm really keen to hear what you think about this, apparently it is a condition of Google giving Android free and open source to third parties to put into their phones, people like Samsung and HTC and to a lesser extent Motorola or Lenovo, as it is now. It is a condition that you have to have Google's Play Store and Google Apps pre-installed on the device. Now, you can uninstall them, but you have to have them as a condition of using Android. So is it truly open source?
Well, as an Android firmware developer in a previous life, there is an open source version of Android, and no, you're not forced to have the Play Store. It's effectively an all or nothing kind of approach, really. There is a web browser that comes with they call it AOSP, the open source Android, and that does it's a bit of a kind of poor man's browser. It isn't that great. If you want your Android device to have the Play Store, which is of course the main reason that's the main thing you make the Android devices for, so you can get access to the app ecosystem. The Play Store is the Play services, which then comes with everything. So you can release an Android, certainly you could a few years ago, I'm assuming you still can. You can release Android devices without Google's Play services, because, the Kindle, for example, is an Android device, and they don't have Play services on them.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you want the Play Store, you have to get everything else that comes with it.
Well, more about Kindle later, but certainly putting Android, an open source operating system, at the center of an antitrust case does seem a bit ridiculous.
What I don't understand is, why doesn't anyone go after Apple? I mean, Safari is bundled on a Mac, and Safari is enforced on you on an iPhone. And in fact, there's no way on an iPhone to override your web browser. So every link inside your email will open up Safari, even if you don't use Safari on your iPhone. So
that's interesting. Well, that's a good point. Maybe they'll go after them next. I think the issue with Apple is they don't have a big enough market share. I think generally the EU goes after people who have market dominance. And I suppose if 80% of all new smartphones have got Android on them, then they're going to go after the owner of Android.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a bit silly. I thought at the time as well it was silly that they went after Microsoft, because the whole Windows N thing was just a complete fiasco.
Well, I would have called this a Techtasm straight away. I mean, this is clearly ridiculous. But however, if it wasn't for the fact that in 2001 they managed to get Microsoft, the mighty Microsoft, who at the time were a tech behemoth, along the lines of what Google and Apple are now, to change their operating system to offer that for all EU customers. So they can make these things. They can really change what companies are doing.
Well, I mean, yeah, they can. If they stop them from selling in the EU, then that's a bit of a problem. I think it's a Techtasm because it's completely ridiculous. I can see this one being fought for a very long time.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it'll get tied up for years and years and years, and Google won't care at the end of the day. So stupid Techtasm from the European Union. Now, a car story from your favourite publication, Ars Technica UK. This week, Alan Taylor reported about the Riversimple Rasa. Now, do you know what the Riversimple Rasa is, James?
I'm looking at the article, absolutely. Yeah, hydrogen car, very exciting.
It was a trick question, but yes, of course you know what it is. But it's a hydrogen car, as you said. But apparently it can do 300 miles on 1.5 kilos of fuel. Now, the name Rasa comes from tabula rasa, the Latin for blank or clean slate. And just to describe the vehicle for a second, it looks very much like the original Honda Insight. It's got the enclosed rear wheels. It's a kind of two-seater car, I think, with, it's a very small miniature vehicle. It's not like a smart car. It's more like a regular sedan car, but miniaturized. And certainly looks very aerodynamic. And I think, in terms of its aerodynamics, it's got a coefficient of drag of 0.248. Sounds impressive. I don't know whether it is impressive, but it's something they're very pleased with. Now, the fuel cell vehicle itself is an off-the-shelf component, which I didn't even know you could get these things off the shelf. It's got an 8.5 kilowatt output, and it's currently used for powering forklift trucks in Walmart warehouses, according to this article. Wow. Now, if you compare that with a 100 kilowatt system in the Hyundai iX35 or the fuel cell, the 114 kilowatt stack in Toyota's Mirai, it's an absolute minnow. But the weight of the vehicle is 580 kilos. Now, that makes it only 130 kilos heavier than Renault's Twizy, which is my current favourite comedy battery electric vehicle.
It's really impressive. I mean, it's fantastic. I love what these companies can do.
Well, do you know, it's interesting. It's based in Wales, where the fuel cell was originally invented.
That's incredible.
Yes, let me just get those facts for you. William Robert Grove invented invented the hydrogen fuel cell in 1842. So a bit of a coming home here. It has got some fantastic innovations in it, not only for its kooky design, which look great, but also the fact that it uses a hybrid system with lithium-ion hybrid capacitors that actually store the energy recuperated from the braking system. Now, the advantage of supercapacitors is that the batteries can dump gigantic amounts of energy. You can dump a lot of energy in and take a lot of energy out. The only problem is they've got limited storage capacity. I think there's half a kilowatt hour of capacitor space on the actual vehicle, which means there's not a lot there, but you can dump all your regen energy into it and then pump it all out on the acceleration again. So they've obviously kind of leapt forward in terms of car efficiency. It's a funny looking thing, isn't it? Would you drive one?
No, I probably wouldn't fit, I'm guessing. But
I don't know about that. Have you ever been in a smart car?
I don't think so.
Those things are gigantic on the inside. Oh, it's like a TARDIS.
Okay.
So I think your ass looks fairly close to the ground in this thing.
Yeah, it does. It's definitely the future. It's really exciting.
Oh, all right, it's interesting. So that's what I was going to ask you that. Should we call this a Techtasm for hydrogen cars? So you think hydrogen cars are the future?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're going to be a lot quicker to charge up, right, than an electric car. I mean, I'm guessing.
Well, 300 miles on 1.5 kilos of fuel. I don't know how long that fuel would take to get that fuel into the car, but certainly that's a hell of a distance, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but surely 1.5 kilos transferring gas from, a place to a place is, I'm guessing, with my very, very basic understanding of physics, would be quicker. I'm going to use complicated words like fast and quick to charge up the, on those LPG cars, how many kilos of LPG do they stick?
Well, I believe the average, the Toyota Mirai has 5 kilos of hydrogen when it's fully pumped.
Okay.
But the containment system for that hydrogen, because hydrogen being the building block of the universe, it's one atom, one neutron, one proton. It bleeds through anything. It will leak like nobody's business, virtually, however you contain it. Now, of course, if you've got a mobile container system like they have, the Toyota Mirai is the only one I can talk about, but the containment system for that is 70 kilos.
Wow.
Yeah, which to contain 5 kilograms. So actually, a petrol tank will have 50 kilos of fuel and it'll be a 10 kilo container. So it's actually lighter to do it with petrol. Yeah. So I would say actually for hydrogen, I understand why, especially the Japanese, but I especially understand why people are interested in hydrogen, because you can reuse the existing fueling infrastructure. Because all a hydrogen car is an electric car where the electricity comes from a hydrogen fuel cell. I mean, just to be 100% clear, that's how it works. But why not charge at home? I mean, you've got electricity at home. Why not use your home to recharge?
Look, I mean, I was about to say because you might need to go somewhere, but then, as we've discussed in the past, how often do you actually go long distances away from your home? It's fairly rare event.
Yeah, it is, but it happened to me today. I couldn't go in my electric car to where I needed to go. So actually, maybe that 300 miles of range is the killer feature, because you've got to have a hell of a lot of lithium ion to go 300 miles.
I mean, the Tesla manages it, doesn't it?
I think but that's it. The largest Tesla Model S has got, best part of a ton of batteries in it.
Yeah.
This thing weighs 500 kilos. So actually, if you look at the total green picture, we need to be doing less journeys in lighter cars. This ticks all those boxes. So I suspect perhaps we'll live in a future where the eco-warriors drive the Riversimple Rasa So you're calling it a reel then, James?
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I'm hearing. A little filler story for you, James. Google Play Music launched podcasts on Monday this week. Now, US and Canadian users should be able to see podcasts in the Google Play Music app. And now the podcast store itself kind of is inserted into the interface and allows you to search and subscribe for your favorite shows and play them everywhere that Play Music works. And of course, like any good podcasting app, it will check occasionally for new episodes and download them automatically, allowing you to listen to your podcast in the car, etc., etc. Now, unfortunately, this is only in the US and Canada. What's going on here, James? Why just the US?
I mean, Apple, I know Apple and Google, big fights, etc., but you would have thought that considering Apple have had a native podcast application actually since the original iPod,
yes,
that, Google would at least have a Me Too offering. And what's hard about bringing out a podcast application to the UK? I mean, we're not that bad.
Exactly. There are other podcast apps. The one I use is called, I completely forget the name of it, but it is fantastically good. I'm just going to pull it up while I'm talking. I still don't know what it's called. Doesn't tell me.
But it's a really good podcasting application.
But the one Pocket Casts is the one that I've heard that a lot of people rate. Now, these are most good podcatchers, to use the correct technical term, are pay-for apps, so you pay for it. Now, that's you iPhone, iOS types are used to paying for everything, but in Android land, we never pay for anything.
Well, you say that, but the podcasting application is free, so...
It is free. That's the irony of it, that it was free, and I paid £3 or whatever for my podcasting app, which I use every day to listen to podcasts, including the wonderful Techtasm with tech guru and illuminary James Woodall.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the one and only. Yep.
Well, the final story today is reported in ZDNet, and this one comes from Jason Perlow, where Amazon launched last week the Kindle Oasis. Now, obviously, we all know what a Kindle is. But do you know what a Kindle Oasis is? Well, let me tell you. It's a $290 Wi-Fi only e-reader. Very high end. Now, you could buy, they still sell the regular Kindle for $80. So you could buy 4 of them for the cost of the Kindle Oasis. Now, why on earth do you think Amazon are moving up market, James?
I don't get it. If you've got a great reader at 80, what's going on? I'm lost with this one. I am.
Well, apparently it comes with a cover which also has a battery in it. It's got a new design, so it's easier to hold, and can last 20 months on standby. 20 months. I mean, who the hell needs that? Not me. But let me put a little twist in here for you, James, before you call this one ludicrous, which you probably would. But let me try and talk you out of it. Now, Amazon, with its Kindle, has achieved a near monopoly. That Kindle is the word you use to describe e-readers. Kindle own the market. Everybody uses Kindle. Anyone that's tried to compete with them has failed. And they've achieved this apex of performance by, blanketing, using their position as the biggest bookseller in the world, in the universe. And they've managed to cultivate a certain tranche of users who are absolute zealots. And in the same way that, I always say one of my favorite jokes from the Edinburgh Festival was from a couple of years ago. And it went like this: for all you people with iPhones, you didn't invent the thing, you just bought one, so stop banging on about it. Now, I think with Kindles, there is a group of people that just love Kindles for Kindles, and they are probably prepared in the same way that they would buy an iPad for a specific function, for couch surfing or whatever, to pay big money for a device which just sits, on the nightstand, is there for them to read when they want to read, with the rich leather cover and the 20-month battery. So I think what they've done is they've turned this near monopoly into chasing that premium end of the market, because I bet they're making $200 on this device.
Yeah, I would expect so as well. that they're a really smart company. They know their audience. They do have, as you say, almost an Apple-like following for their particular products. It's a shame that following didn't cross over to the Fire Phone, but
the Fire Phone, lest we never let them forget.
Yes. So they know what they're doing. I think myself I'm not a Kindle user. I'm guessing you're not either.
I'm not. No. Do you read ebooks?
I do read ebook. I'm more of a kind of I love my programming books because that's how I roll, and but I'm quite happy to read them on the iPad. I don't mind the screen, but then I've grown up with LCD screens.
I think a lot of the market's gone that way. Can you name a little quiz before I ask you to call this one? Can you name 3 other e-reader systems?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I built one.
But you have to know.
Yes, the Thalia Oyo, which I'm sure none of our readers or listeners know.
That wasn't on my list.
I say that because I built it. The Nook, of course. I don't even know if that's
Barnes and Noble Nook. Yes.
Yep. And is it the Kubo or the Code? The
Kobo, correct?
Kobo.
Yes, that's a Canadian system.
Yeah, isn't that the one in WH Smith's?
Yes, that's right. Yes, WH Smith in the UK have got that one. I assume they're still selling it. It's a long time since
that was 3, so yes, I can.
Well done. Well, very good. You could have had Sony's e-reader as well, but that business is long gone. Nook is on life support.
And I'd be surprised if the Thalia Oyo, Thalia being the Waterstones equivalent in Germany, I'd be surprised if that's still going. So
yes. So there was a brutal competition a few years ago. And then Kindle emerged victorious. And this is about the exploitation of that market. Or a less cynical way of looking at it is a way of giving a certain part of that market an ultra-premium experience for an ultra-premium cost. So, the $300 Kindle, Techtasm?
I'm going to say no. It's a real...
Oh, have I talked you out of it?
It's a real because... it's not for me. It's a real because Amazon know what they're doing. And... with some of the really things they've done lately, it's I think they're an exciting company to watch. So yeah, it's a real. I won't buy it myself though.
Well, that's it for this week. You can find us as always at facebook.com/Techtasm. You can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or FeedBurner, or perhaps soon Google Play Music. You never know. You can contact us at feedback@techtasm.com. We record every Tuesday at 2100 BST GMT, which is why we're recording on a Wednesday this week. So watch out for next week. You never know what day we'll be broadcasting. This is me, Sir Robin Yellow.
And me, just James Woodall.
Asking the question, is it real? Or is it just a Techtasm?